Good evening. Welcome to the May 20, 2024 meeting of the Westport Select Board. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. Just a couple of welcome comments. Our next meeting is scheduled for 2 weeks from today on June 3rd. We do have an executive session on the agenda tonight, but we're not going to come back after it. We're just come back to close the regular meeting. There'll be no meeting after the executive session. I want to call out a couple of important dates that are coming up this week. The Board of Health is sponsoring a talk on the impact of the opioid addiction on May 22nd. That's at 6 p.m. at the Middle High School. So they have some clinicians talking about the opioid crisis on the 22nd. This weekend is Memorial Day, so we have a number of events coming up for Memorial Day. On Saturday, May 25th, there's a ceremony at each of the memorials throughout town. Starting at 9 a.m. at the VFW, 9:15 at the American Legion, 9:30 at Latessa Square, 10 o'clock the Fontaine Bridge, and 10:15 at Westport Point. So we travel through all of those. You're welcome to come to all or any of them. There will be sounds of gunfire, so people should be on the alert. Then on Monday, we have I didn't check the weather, but we have our traditional Memorial Day ceremony on Monday, May 27. If the weather permits, there's a parade that starts at 9:30 at the town hall. There's a short ceremony at town hall, and we all walk up to the cemetery, and then there's some remarks that are made at the cemetery about 10 a.m. In case of inclement weather, they will have in the town hall annex. So Wednesday, the Board of Health. Saturday, we have the wreath laying, and then Monday we have the Memorial Day parades. Is there anything else we should note before we begin? Okay. So the first item on the agenda is a public hearing. We have a request from Robert McCullough for a 6-month seasonal trailer permit for recreational purposes. The property is located at 165 East Beach Road, Assessor's Map 76A, Lot 48. Is there anyone here for that request? Jim, is the paperwork all in order?
Yeah, everything's in order. This was a transfer of property. They're going with the same plan that they had on file, so there are really no changes, just change in ownership. I'd recommend approval.
Okay, any discussion from the board? This is a public hearing. Is there anything from the public? Seeing none?
Make a motion to accept the request.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. I do want to note the absence of Steve Ouellette, so when I say unanimous, I mean 4 with 1 absent. The next item we have is under license and permits. We have a request from the Westport River Watershed Alliance for a 1-day all alcohol license for their annual gala, August 10th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., being held at 236 Fisherville Lane. Jim, you want to give us the recommendation here?
Sure, this is their yearly event. Happens just about in June every year. They do different locations. We did get a police report. The police have a favorable recommendation on this event. I'd recommend approval.
Any discussion?
I move approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 1-day license. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. 4 with 1 absence. We have a request from the Coastal Wine Trail of New England for a 1-day wine and malt license for their annual Farmers Market Festival, June 15, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., being held at the Westport Fairgrounds. Jim, you want to tell us about this
So
one?
this is an event they've had the last couple of years as well. I don't believe there's been any issues. I do not have a police report on file with this one, and it may have been that Paul is out today, so I may have missed it somewhere, but I don't have it with it, so I'd recommend if the board does approve, that they just approve it subject to a favorable recommendation from the police department.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Move we approve.
I second it
So you're
with the
moving-
favorable recommendation.
So you're
from the
moving
police.
approval subject to...
Subject to a favorable recommendation from the police department.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. 4 with 1 absence. We have a request from Ronald Savaria, Chair of the Shellfish Advisory Board, to approve the resignation of Dora Atwater Milliken. and to appoint William Chase to fill the position on the board. Mr. Chase is here. I do have a question. When we have vacancies on boards, do we give time, like, if I'm totally fine with Mr. Chase being appointed tonight, I'm just wondering if we usually give notice or something.
The notice we've been given recently, at least the last year or two, is just putting it on the agenda, noting the
Okay.
vacancies. If it's an elected position, we've been given the 30 days.
Okay.
But for the appointments, we have not recently anyway.
Okay. So why don't we take this separately? So can I have a motion to accept the resignation of Dora Mulliken?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 4 with 1 absence. And then we have a request to appoint William Chase to fill the position on the board. Do you want to say anything? You don't have to. I'm asking if you want to. If you do, you have to go to a mic, but you don't have to.
If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
If you have anything you want to. He comes highly recommended from the advisory board. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I move appointment
Second.
of Mr. Chase.
So we have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Chase. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, 4-0. Welcome, thank you.
Congratulations.
We have a request from Chief Dunn. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good evening.
Hopefully everybody had a nice weekend. Here before the board this evening to respectfully request a continued offer of employment for 2 Westport residents. As you're aware, we have several openings, police openings in our department. We had a written exam as well as an oral board, and 2 candidates stood out amongst the rest. From there, we had a second oral board, a background investigation, a psychological assessment, as well as a physical assessment. So if it pleases Madam Chair and the board, I'd like to just introduce both candidates very briefly. So Justin DeSilva is a graduate of Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, is currently employed as an electrical apprentice. He currently resides in Westport with his wife, with 1 child and expecting another one on the way. So this is Mr. DeSilva. And I have Andrew Silva here. Andrew holds a bachelor's degree from Massachusetts Maritime Academy in Emergency Management, and he's currently employed as an armed service technician with Loomis Armored Service. In his spare time, he's a volunteer with the New Bedford Emergency Management. He resides in Westport as a graduate of Westport High School. I'm not requesting any additional funding. This is merely replacing open positions at this time. So I'm respectfully asking a contingent offer of employment. This is pretty much the last step in the process. Once we get the contingent offer of employment, we can then secure seats in a regional police academy, which is highly competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for the chief?
Madam Chair, are we taking these together or separately?
I don't mind. Do you want to do them separately or take? I don't care.
We usually do them
We
separately.
can do them. We can do them one at a time. So Justin, is there anything you want to say?
I'm just very grateful for the opportunity.
Okay, Andrew, anything for you?
I can't wait to work for the town.
Okay. I think we're good.
Well, I'd like to move, I'll do it individually, Mr. DeSilva as full-time officer.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous with 1 absence.
Madam Chair, I recommend Andrew Silver as full-time officer.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous with 1 absence. Welcome aboard, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Members of the board.
Good to see you.
You have a couple more on this. isn't
Yes,
there?
I'll be
Okay.
here. I have one more. Oh, sorry. the
They're
dispatcher.
like
here.
coming up next.
Yes,
so
and the
don't go
dispatcher.
anywhere, is
And the-
what I
and the-
meant.
Yes,
We're still on that.
I'm so eager to go.
We have Kelsey Carvalho.
Yes.
Full-time EMD 911 dispatcher.
Yes, so we are short, open 1 position, EMD 911 dispatcher position, and this is merely replacing that position.
Okay, any discussion?
I would move appointment Kelsey Carvalho to full-time EMD 911 dispatcher.
Second, Craig Dusher.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous with 1 absence. And we have reappoint Michelle Donovan as full-time officer and Sarah Pacheco as full-time officer.
Yes, Michelle's currently a detective, and Sarah is a school resource officer in our department.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd first wonder if any of the candidates are here this evening.
I don't even.
Michelle and Sarah, I believe, they're not here.
Okay. I move that Michelle Donovan as full-time officer.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, one absence.
Madam Chair, I recommend Sarah Pacheco. I move as full-time officer.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous with one absence. I think that was your list. Did you have anything else?
I have one more
today?
with the gift account, that request, that Deputy Chief.
I'm gonna, if
Rebello?
it's okay with the board, I wanna take this out of order so we can
Mhm.
have the chief go. All right, so this is 4H. So 4H is a request from Deputy Police Chief Robert Rebello to establish a comfort dog gift account. So I read about this on Facebook, I'm super
Yes.
excited. So can you tell us about?
So, just a little historical perspective, Madam Chair. So, Officer Kyle Fernandez came to me, and he had his own dog, and he was willing to train the dog in his own time, and with the services of Eric Latender, who I'd like to publicly thank, provide services to train the dog. So, Officer Fernandez achieved a certification with his dog Barry, and they've been throughout town providing comfort care to the schools. We're hopefully getting Barry to the senior center. We've already had several requests for businesses in town, and I think this is just a tremendous community engagement program between the police department and our community. This program, this gift account is just merely to supplement any bills that Officer Fernandez may incur, or a ramp for the dog to get to into the cruiser, or food. So that's what this gift account is we're looking to establish. And Deputy Chief Rebello did a great job kind of outlining this document.
Thank you. And Jim, can you just, it looked like you consulted with the town accountant on this.
Yeah, I did check with Nicole Purcell, town accountant, and she said that we could set up the account and that it wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. And then it would work like we're gonna get some from the Veteran Service and the Council on Aging, right? We would accept the donations into that account.
Yes, they do have some other accounts in the police that do not come through the select board, so
Okay.
we're still working on that, whether or not they'd have to be approved by the board as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any discussion?
So we're not approving? Or we don't have to approve?
No.
No, no.
Well, you need to approve
the
setting up the account.
Oh, okay. I move that that we establish a comfort dog gift account.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous with one absence. Anything else going on in the department you wanna talk about?
And we're just looking forward to the Memorial Day Parade, being there for that. And, you know, if and when you'd like to have Barry here one evening, we'll be more than happy to have Officer Fernandez showcase Barry. I mean, he's one of the more popular people already, one of the more popular employees of our department. So at any point you'd like to meet and greet with him, by all means, we'll have him here.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the
Thank
work
you,
you're
Chief.
doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could you usually make appointment dates for new hires?
Oh, yes, we do. What should the appointment dates be for the, well, no, it's contingent on their offers, right?
For Justin and Andrew, yes. For Michelle Donovan and Sarah Pacheco, they're currently officers, so this is just merely a reappointment
All right,
for them, so they should already have dates established.
okay.
But for Andrew and Justin, the dates would be when they graduate the police academy, which would be early next year.
Okay, thank you. And what about Kelsey Carvalho?
The appointment date, if it could be today, that would be great, or whenever the appointment in the near future.
Jim, can you,
When's she gonna start?
she probably already started.
No, she has not, she has not. Is there a way I can get back to
You
somebody
wanna
about
do
this?
it as a Monday?
That's fine, perfect, thank you.
Okay, is that all right with the,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Do we need to vote on that again, or we all agree?
I don't think so,
Okay.
that's a routine.
Thank you, Bob, for keeping us in order there.
Thank you, Madam Chair, thank you both.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Bill.
We have a request from Garth Patterson to appoint Joshua Brum as the town representative for the Citizens for Citizens Board. Is there anyone here for that? Jim, do you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, I guess it was Ron Costa has been the appointee for a number of years and is unable to serve this year. I've spoken to Garth Patterson. He's requested that the board make a new appointment this year for a new member. He's talked to Josh Brum, and Josh is interested. I think he'd be a good candidate, so I'd recommend approval.
Okay.
I move we appoint Josh Brum to that position.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous with one absence. We have a request from the Housing Authority to appoint Timothy Caton to the Community Preservation Committee. Timothy is here. Did you want to say anything? You don't have to, I'm just asking.
Hi, Timothy Caton. I appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the Housing Authority putting trust in me, and hopefully the board too as well. With that being said, I'll do everything I can to honor the town and the boards that I sit on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we appoint Timothy Caton to the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. One absence. You guys are welcome. You can stay or go. It's fine. We won't be insulted if you leave. Okay. It's not that common for people to stay after their appointment. We have so I see Mr. Sullivan down there. We approved your liquor license, if that's what you're here for. The Watershed Alliance's liquor license we approved, not yours.
Thank you.
Okay, we have action item 4A. So this is a request from the Council on Aging to accept the following donations totaling $575. $50 Polly Dooley Tax Help, $100 Mary Hicks Social Day Program Scholarship, $100 Sharon Martori Best Use, $5 Melinda St. Jane Outreach, $10 Gloria Velosa Outreach, $200 Louise Sampson Best Use, $10 Nick Solmier Tax Help, $50 Walter Rigo Best Use, $50 Nancy Berube Russo in memory of Tilly Silva.
Madam Chair, I move that these donations be accepted.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous with one absence. We have a request from Curtis Geckel, 258 Brayton Point Road, for permission to park cars in front of his property on the road the evening of May 25th, 2024. It has received a favorable police recommendation. Jim, do you want to tell us about this? Is there anyone here for that?
So this was a request. They're going to have a party at 258 Brayton Point Road. I actually have two dates here. On his email, it says May 24th, but on all our correspondence, it's May 25th.
So the date is May 25th, Saturday, and not Friday. Sorry
Okay.
about the confusion.
So May 25th, we do have a police report from Sergeant Mello. He's been out to the site, and he is right. It's a favorable recommendation. He said there is area to park in the grass on the side of the road. 12 noon to 12 midnight. He said it should not be an issue. He will notify the patrol officer on duty that day to let them know that there will be some parking if the board approves.
I move approval subject to the stipulations set forth in the police report.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous with one absence. We have a request to petition the general court for the passage of special legislation authorizing the issuance of an all-alcohol beverage liquor license not to be drunk on the premises package store to Gulf Resources, 634 American Legion Highway, Westport, Mass. You'll recall that town meeting voted to authorize us to request the special legislation. So we have a letter in the packets that makes the request. Is there any discussion? What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move that we petition the general court for the passage of the special legislation described herein.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous with one absence. We have a request to authorize the town administrator to move forward with pump station easements west of Route 88. So you want to tell us a little bit about this, Jim?
Yeah, so the design of the Route 6 water and sewer has been going on for a couple of years now. That first section is advanced more than the rest of it. That's that area between Fall River and Route 88. We had two locations where pump stations would be located. One would be at 35 State Road, and the other would be at the Meatworks property further east on State Road. The properties have been appraised. The easements have been shown on a surveyed plan. They're ready to be taken if the board so chooses, and I'm just looking for direction from the board whether to move forward with this taking or whether we just put it on hold. There would be some benefit to taking the property. Obviously, if you ever do sewer, at least the 35 State Road, that's probably a location that cannot be changed very easily, if at all. The other one, at Meatworks, you could possibly get another location. There's ARPA funding that's been allocated from Bristol County to do the takings. It's about $54,000 to take those easements for both those properties. We have been in contact with both property owners. While neither property owner has come out and said they agree to the takings, they have not opposed the taking, so I don't have an official stance from either one.
So, so my first thought when I saw this is why would we need these takings if the project hasn't been authorized to move forward yet? And it sounded like one of the benefits of moving forward now is that we could use this ARPA money that we'd already kind of planned to do this, we're ready to do this, and we could use the ARPA money to pay for it. I know I'm hesitant to do anything to advance the sewer part of the project, given the recent vote, but I don't know. Have we talked about this on the infrastructure oversight committee?
Well, I have a couple questions on that.
Okay.
So, the vote that just happened, so obviously, the vote is in the ballot, and in town meeting decided that they don't want to borrow money for the sewer and water. The taking on these two easements, I mean, why wouldn't we include the other two easements?
The other two aren't as far advanced as these. We don't have these survey plans done, and we don't have appraisals. We could.
I mean, I thought we were working on that in the infrastructure. I mean, I actually saw the plans that we couldn't move the last one because it was they already had the plans back from the utility company.
So they
Which
did
was
the
the biggest
design.
thing.
They did the design plans, but they never did the land taking plans, and we did not get it appraised. It was ready to get appraised. It was ready to go.
And why didn't that happen?
Town meeting voted against it, so
I mean, this was long before town meeting, we were working on this.
It didn't happen, that's where we are
Okay,
now.
Madam Chair, could I please finish?
You can.
Okay. So, the other thing is, legislative spending for next year on contract 2. Where's that standing right now? The grant that we just applied for.
I don't know. We haven't been awarded that grant.
I understand we didn't be awarded, but did we apply for that grant?
Yeah, the planning board applied for it.
Okay. Well, now, why didn't they apply for it for contract 3?
I don't think Jim's in a position to answer why they didn't do
Well,
something.
I'm just asking because I thought it was, and that's why I'm asking these questions. I mean, the grant money that we're gonna move forward with the water in contract 2. Can the public know what we're doing with that? Because you're not looking at the pump station in contract 2, but you're looking at the water in contract 2, because we have some grant money for that.
Yeah, and the water goes beyond contract 2, right? Because we have the Macumber Loop as well. It actually extends into contract 3.
Right. So, what's our plans with that?
Well, I believe we're going to move forward with the water, right? We have the $4 million grant. We have a question here for the select board, the next agenda item, to transfer some money around to
No, which is good.
cover some of the additional costs. So I think that's a great project, and I think we should continue to move forward,
So-
and that's been the,
Can
Now,
I just ask, are
that's
these
been the plan.
easements necessary for the water project to advance?
no, completely separate.
okay, but so how do we move forward with the water? What's our next step with this?
We're going to go out to bid. We need the contract from the state and from EPA.
So didn't we just go out to bid?
Yeah, you can't use that bid for this work.
Okay, so, and why is that?
It's a different contract, it's different work. It includes Gifford Road, Osborne Street that were not included in the
Okay.
original bid.
So, but that would be an amendment to the notice of intent for phase 1 sewer and water for the town of Westport, no?
There's no sewer
No.
project on your proposal right now, just water.
Oh, I mean, there is a sewer project. We put it out to bid. Town meeting voted against borrowing money to build it.
Yes.
I mean, the state and the federal government are giving us money for the design. We've used ARPA money for the design of the sewer and water.
No, we didn't.
Okay, I mean, you are the procurement officer, so if you believe that we can go out to bid to install the water in contract 2 and 3 of Westport Sewer and Water Project, I guess,
Yeah, we can't
Maybe
use
up to you.
existing bid documents. Those are,
okay.
Those were bid separately.
But the funding that we got, what was that for? I mean, are they gonna use the design from that, from,
Yeah, they will use the design for that section of the water line that's in Route 6.
okay. So, and who paid for that?
That was paid through Senator Rodrick's, and it was also paid using some of the ARPA funds.
Okay, and that's the same thing that we designed sewer and water for Route 6. So we're gonna use that, but we're not gonna use anything
We can use the
else.
design, I mean, we're not gonna redesign it.
I'm
it's
just a little,
already been
I'm
designed.
confused, Jim. If you could just make clarification.
Well, I think the topic before us right now is about these takings for this
Well, and-
easements, and so can you like help us understand?
Yes.
I understand that like the next topic is
I
what you're
would-
talking about.
I
so
would
can you help me
certain-
understand how it relates?
I would
to the-
certainly move to recommend these 2 easements, but I would also move to recommend the additional 2 easements.
Madam Chair, I have different questions here. This, we're not exercising eminent domain this evening. This comes later. I see that down below in the explanation that Jim provided to us. But I'm curious, as there was no package in the file on this item, and I was curious as to who the owners are of these properties. And have they been approached to sell the properties to us, to receive an offer to buy it, or has that precluded? And I guess I need to know more than why. And again, we're not voting on the eminent domain tonight, but there's a lot of questions here in that regard that I have.
Can I just ask a question? Under our packet, under 4G, there's appraisal 35 state and 287 state. Is that the easement information?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
they're
that
mislabeled.
That did come in late, that came in today.
They're mislabeled in there. So 35 state and 287 state are under 4G in the file that we have.
I have one other question.
Well,
So,
Well, wait, we haven't finished with.
yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to read these because I didn't realize that was in there. It was mislabeled, obviously, but in this information, does that answer the question as to who owns the land and whether we have approached them to acquire the land? And I'm asking the question, why do we have to take it by eminent domain? Is there resistance to it, and we're going to exercise that at a later date?
So we'd want to take it by eminent domain regardless of whether it was a friendly taking or not. It gives us clear title to the property and addresses those issues. So there's some benefits to doing it by eminent domain. We've met with both property owners. We've met with 35 State Road property owner. We've discussed it with the Meatworks group. They have not said they're in favor of it or opposed to it, but they both seem willing to work with us. Whether or not they agree to the price of the appraisal has not been determined at this point.
Mhm. Okay, but anyway, that will be determined at a later date, and if the people have objection, they could appear and voice their opinions.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really what I was interested in.
okay. So Jim, is there any other way to acquire these pump station locations other than eminent domain?
Yeah, you could request them to transfer it to the town.
So
Sell it to the town.
you believe that's you can do that?
I do. It would require a town meeting. Eminent domain taking for sewer and water projects can be done by the select board. Any other type of land transaction would have to be approved at a town meeting.
Okay, so the select board can't authorize this?
Yes.
Okay. So the one at 35 State Road, that would be to replace the existing pump station that is now in service?
Yes.
Okay. And the next one would be at Meatworks, which is needed for Meatworks to be tied into the,
That's right.
okay. And then the one at the Bread and Cheese Brook, that would have all the environmental benefit. We're not going to put this on it right now.
Well, that's up to you. I mean,
No, I made that move. I'd like to move that we do all pump station locations at this time.
So you're moving that we authorize the town administrator to move forward with 4 pumping station locations?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, I have a question on this.
Yep.
The third, and the fourth pump stations are not posted here. Can we take action on
Well,
this?
the addresses aren't posted for the other 2 either. So the posting is a request to authorize the town administrator to move forward with pump station easements west of Route 88. Are those all 4 of those west of Route 88?
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
so I think
2
the
would be
agenda.
east of Route 88.
Well, one of them that you want isn't west of 88, right?
No, they're both west of 88.
Are all 4 west of 88?
Well, I'd like to make an amendment to change that include all, I think that would be prudent to include all pump stations.
If you would like to change the agenda, we'd have to table it
I don't believe
tonight
that's,
and put it on a
I don't believe
future
that's
agenda.
changing the agenda. That's an item that's on the agenda, and we're just making a modification to it.
We didn't specify the locations.
We didn't specify, the only specification says west of Route 88.
I thought I heard they were all west of 88.
No, they're not. That was,
Okay.
just, so they deliberately put it west of 88, because all they want to do is get to Meatworks,
I get
and they
it.
want to replace the existing pump station.
Okay.
So they don't want to do the one at Bread and Cheese Brook.
The Bread and Cheese Brook hasn't been, survey plan hasn't been completed. We do not have appraisals for that, so we would need
Are
funding
you
for
sure that we
appraisals.
don't, you sure we don't have appraisals for that, Jim?
Yeah, I'm
That was
positive.
never appraised?
I'm positive.
So I have a question. So the motion is to authorize the town administrator to move forward. Can you explain exactly what move forward step would be?
So I would meet with town council and we'd go through the actual taking process, have him develop other documents that would come before the select board. I'm not sure if it's a public hearing or not, but whatever that process is, we would start that process.
So this would be to prepare for a future vote where we would take so we're not doing the taking tonight.
No.
We are you are working with council, doing the things we need to do to authorize the taking at a future meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so, and then the motion that we have right now is for all 4. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I still have, my issue is still the same with the other 2. That has not been noticed here. It's an open meeting law question. So if I am not in favor of this, it would be mainly procedural, that we haven't had that opportunity to notice it. Now, the wording is easements west of Route 88. I mean, that gets us partly there, but I'm a little bit troubled that we don't have more specifics on the other 2. And I would be not inclined to vote for this tonight. I'm just telling why I feel that way, and I think it's really a procedural thing, but I think we need to adhere to that. Eminent domain is a very serious issue. I've never been involved in eminent domain issues with other towns, but I have observed them, and they sometimes can take a bad turn. So to do as much ahead of time is appropriate, and I have no issue with the 2 that have been noticed in my view. So, but the motion includes 4. That's my problem. I'm just saying, whenever I vote this way, I'd like to explain why I'm voting that way, but at a later date with the full information, I might be inclined to vote in favor of it, but not tonight.
Any further discussion?
Yes. So, one thing that, and I guess we'll try to clarify this in the next infrastructure oversight committee meeting. So the only way, I believe the only way is by eminent domain. So what happens is the pump station is taken by eminent domain. If the owner doesn't agree with the eminent domain, they can appeal it. And what the appeal does is whatever they are awarded, it's the appeal the amount. Because we've already spent the money on the design and the pump stations in these locations. So, and that's why when, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago when I was involved in that meeting with you and Kleinfeld, and we discussed this, because one of the owners at the last pump station had a request to move it in a different location. And that's when we had found out that all the design from the utility company had been complete, and everything was already complete. And that's the reason that it's done that way. That was the best location to put it in, and the only way, I believe the only way, but if you can get that clarification from town council for us, please, if there's another way. I believe even if they offer up the land, the only way for a sewer and water project, and the select board is authorized to do this without going to town meeting.
Since there was a modified motion, I believe I seconded it. I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, so with the motion for 4 does not have, we have a, where are we? Are you withdrawing the motion for 4?
I'm not withdrawing the motion.
Okay, so we have a
Somebody else
motion for
wants.
4. Do we have a second for the motion for 4? Okay, so that, go ahead.
He withdrew his second.
He withdrew his second. So we don't have a second, so there's no motion. Would you like to make a different motion? Anybody else?
I move that we approve the easements
To authorize the town administrator to move forward
as specified in the agenda.
with the easements west of Route 88,
Correct.
as specified in the agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, for clarification, the two pumps we're talking about,
How many pumps are west of 88?
2.
The two. Yeah.
okay. Then that, my earlier objection now is obviated.
Okay, so are you seconding the motion?
I will second it.
All right, so now we have a motion and a second to move forward with the 2 pump station easements west of Route 88. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes. So,
Wait, I think, were you talking?
Yeah, my concern is we have to be very studious about this issue. It's been somewhat controversial, and I don't want to be accused of doing something or changing the rules or trying to manipulate something or manipulate the process, even though that was not the intent of the motion that was made. That could be an inference that would be made, and so I think we stick with what was in the agenda as posted.
Thank you.
okay, and once again, I'm not in favor of the way it was posted in the agenda, and I would not be able to. I'm going to vote against it, but that's, you know, the way I feel on it, because this basically is kind of what I'm looking at is the way we, you know, it was changed to go to town meeting, and just the economic benefit of the sewer and water in contract 1, and we're not looking for, you know, to anything about the public health or the environment with these 2 pump stations. So if you know, and then you know, we had talks that it's going to take 10 years to get down to your neighborhood. So I'm not in favor of just voting for the 2 pump stations. So I will vote against it.
I will also vote against it. I think it's too soon to ask. I think the voters have spoken very clearly that they need more information on the sewer project. These pump stations, if the pump stations for water, I'd be for it, because I think we need but we don't need them for the water part. So I just don't think I think the voters have been very clear that they are cautious of the whole sewer project. I think an eminent domain taking is kind of not appropriate at this time. But all right, any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to further discuss that. So
Go ahead.
once again, it is for water. It is necessary for the sewer, for the pump stations.
Then maybe you should vote for it.
Again, it's not doing anything. These 2 pump stations, there's already an existing pump station in contract 1 that's handling all the economic development of it. The only reason it's being changed and this new pump station's being installed and a new line all the way to Fall River is to take the capacity for North Westport sewer and water. That's why it's being changed and it's being upgraded. So to upgrade contract 1 pump station and not have any thought of doing contract 2 pump station or contract 3 pump station is kind of, at this time, that one's not even needed, because contract 1's existing pump station could handle the 144 customers in contract 1, and there's no need to move forward for economic benefit. However, for the health of the river, environmental and public, that's why we need sewer and water in contract 2.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the authorizing to move forward with the 2 easements. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
No. So that's 2 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 absence. The motion fails. Would we like to request that this be on a future agenda with a different wording?
Yes. Madam Chair, I'd like to request that we put on another agenda for all 4 pump stations.
Second.
I don't think we need a vote on that. If we can, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. So we'll go on a future agenda.
Sorry, Madam Chair, what was the vote again?
To put this on a future agenda.
Previous.
Failed because it was a
It
tie.
failed because it was a tie. It was 2-2 with 1 absence. With Mr. Soares and I opposed. Okay. 4E, request to reallocate Bristol County American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds from the Macomer Neighborhood Water, Sewer and Water Design and Information Technology upgrades to the Macomer Loop and Route 6 water line construction project, $648,650. Jim, can you explain this one for us?
First of all, we did get an extension granted from Bristol County ARPA. They granted an extension till the end of September to get the funds obligated. I met with them about a week and a half ago, asking about the IT application. And what's happening is we're getting further and further away from the pandemic. It's becoming more and more difficult to assign these applications to pandemic-related activities. So they discourage, or we're trying to discourage us from applying for $100,000 for the IT. They didn't say we wouldn't get it, but they said it would be difficult to get. So what I'd like to do is move that $100,000 that we had previously talked about from the IT, and as well as $548,650 that we had put aside for the Macumber neighborhood design of sewer and water, and put that towards the installation of water for the Macumber Loop grant. So we're getting a grant for $4 million. Preliminary estimates are anywhere from $4 to $5 million. This would give us some flexibility in the grants and make sure the funding is there, as well as if the bid's coming low, we could always extend the water line down one of the side streets or make another connection so it wouldn't go to waste, and it would allow us to obligate the money and meet the Bristol County requirements as well.
Okay, so we had hoped that with the sewer project passing, then it would go down far enough to hit this neighborhood that we could put water and sewer at the same time in the neighborhood, right? But now with the uncertainty of the sewer going down that far, we still want to put the water in. We have a very large grant to put the water in. So you're trying to just move the money from the water sewers for that neighborhood to just the construction, or
Yeah, from design of water and sewer to
to
construction of the
construction of
water.
water sewer, and then the IT and then shift the IT money over.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that?
Yes. I think this is great, and I will vote to approve this. I just, a little bit on the discussion. I mean, this does help with the public health threat all the way to Washington Street. And there's many wells all along Route 6 that have numerous contaminants in it. One of them is salt. There's a lot of the wells are contaminated with salt. We had a lot of wells dry up during the previous droughts. So I think this is great. I just, and it's gonna also give us fire service to all of those businesses down there. And so it's gonna help with the public health, and it's gonna help with the fire service. Those people are gonna also be provided with cheaper insurance rates because they now have fire service in front of their houses. So I think that's great that we move that money in that direction. I just, once again, still have a little bit of, confusion on how we're gonna do this, but because we did file a notice of intent for sewer and water down Route 6, and now one of the things up after the town meeting, when the notice of intent went out for the Macumber neighborhood, there was a bunch of talk on Facebook that I thought we stopped this project. So we did file a notice of intent for the Macumber Loop. So what is the DEP number for that notice of intent? Is it an amendment to the original notice of intent on Route 6, or is it a whole new notice of intent?
It's a separate notice of intent.
Okay. So, but we already have a notice of intent for the water down Route 6 that,
We do.
okay.
Is there any other discussion? So what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'd recommend approval.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? So we're voting to reallocate the money as described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous, 4 in favor, 1 absent. We have 4F, request to approve the Community Preservation Act grant agreement for the Westport Historical Society at 25 Drift Road. Ms. Slade sent her condolences that she couldn't be here. Is there anyone else here for that? No. Do you want to tell us what this is about?
Town meeting appropriated through the Community Preservation Act $110,000 for the old schoolhouse on Drift Road for some of the repairs that they've been doing previously, and this would allow them to do additional repairs. I'd recommend approval. The grant agreement is fairly standard for these projects. I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I recommend this be approved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, with one absence. We have a request from Dana Stewart, who's here. You can come. Recreation Director to dispose of the playground equipment at the Annex Playground and to hang the banner promoting the summer concert series from July 11 to August 29. Welcome, Dana.
Good evening. How are you all?
We're good. What can we do for you tonight?
So, investigating, trying to follow policy that other town departments have done when there is any equipment that is deemed not usable anymore by a specific department or the town. I learned that it's proper to give a letter of request to dispose of that equipment, get permission from the board. So in the letter that was provided to you all, I explained that we have AJ Potter and Sons all lined up to do the demo and prep work for demolish the old playground at the annex. The estimated date for that is June 1st. And then they're going to be prepping the land for the new playground to be installed. So within the letter, I just described that the recreation department just wants to probably keep some of the swings. There's a brand new wheelchair accessible swing we're hoping to utilize in the new playground structure. And then just for safety's sake, we thought we'd keep some of the swings because they don't take up a lot of room to store, as well as those swing chains. But then other than that, the rest of the playground can be disposed of. However, a lot of people in town are very sentimental about this playground, and I've received multiple requests for different people in town wanting certain aspects of this playground if we were to allow that. So as part of the letter, I included that piece that I had just thought, well, if someone in town wants to say have the dinosaur, or several people requested the dinosaur riding toy, some have requested the elephant riding toy, and then I had one person interested possibly in the sand structure in the sand, saying it's kind of sentimental to them. So my proposal with that is if we let a community member take something, in turn, can we ask for a donation of their choosing to come to the rec department to then be used toward the funds for the new playgrounds? So I wasn't sure if that could all be included in the letter or not.
I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
We'd have to make it fair for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We will be going, I think in the next month or two, having an auction for a number of vehicles in back of the highway department, and we could have them take pictures of those as well, and those could go on the auction page, and anybody that wanted to bid on them could bid on them.
When is the auction happening?
We haven't scheduled it yet, but we're hoping in the next month or so.
Well, then it would just be a matter of like, can the highway department help move some of the pieces that community members have been requesting for? Could they be stored near the vehicles, I suppose?
I think we could do that.
Okay, okay. And really, we're just talking about the dinosaur, the elephant, and I think that other larger, I don't even know what to call it.
Sculpture.
Yeah.
My kids are in their 20s. It's been a while. since I've
Yes,
done it.
yes.
So, Jim, what do you recommend? If we want to let them dispose of some of this property, what do you recommend is the way to do that?
So I would recommend that the stuff that is not valuable, the select board vote to allow us to dispose of that, which we will do. The other stuff we will put up for auction, and we don't need well, I guess the select board would have to say that it's vote to say that it's surplus property, and we can dispose of that through the auction.
Could those items that are sold in the auction go toward the costs of, or help, with a few of the costs of the new playgrounds, or no?
I don't believe so. I believe it goes just into the general fund. I don't think we have a mechanism to.
So we'd have to track that separately and then try to shift it to
Transfer it over.
recreation at another, by another means.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I think that's a good idea, and probably maybe if you ask Highway if they could go in and remove all this stuff before they start the demo, instead of letting the demo contractor take it, store it with the stuff he's got, and you probably get these people will bid on it if they want it, and just let them know when it's coming up for auction. I think that's a good thing.
If the highway department would be willing to help with that, that would be wonderful. AJ Potter and Sons did say they can demo it, and then also the highway department can maybe then take it once it's like pulled up, so we can do it that way too if needed, for sure.
So would then the appropriate motion here be to authorize, to declare, would we need to declare some surplus and then authorize the town administrator to work to auction the, like what do we need to do here?
Two things. I would say the select board has to approve the older stuff as disposable so we can dispose of it and allow us to declare the remaining small pieces as surplus property when we put those up for auction.
Do you get that, Bob? Or not? Close enough? Okay. Do we have a motion to that?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second the motion to that effect.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And then you also had a request to hang the banner.
Yes, we've been running the summer concert series through a grant that we get through the Westport Cultural Council, the Helen E. Ellis grant, as well as we asked for a nominal fee of like $5 per person or $15 for a family, no matter what the size, for people to attend our summer concerts. We run the summer concerts, I think this is the 4th year. Yeah, I believe so. And so we run them through for 8 weeks through July and August. It's become very popular, enjoyable for the community to attend these. And I usually try to have a banner on the fencing where the playground is, with the playground situation as it is. I thought it might be nicer to then put the banner over Main Road to help advertise this. As you know, with the timeline of the playground and all the rain we've had, it's pushing things back a bit. Anyway, just to help advertise that event.
So Paula coordinates all these banners, because we get a lot of banners in the
Yeah.
summer. I know I'm totally fine with that banner, but do you know of any conflicts, or should we just, Paula will work?
I'd recommend approval, and if there is a conflict, then we'll work it out.
Okay.
I recommend approval with the hanging of the banner as described.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous with one absence. Anything else you want to call out?
I can just let the board know that we're very excited for the new playground to be installed, and you know, things are happening, although at a slower pace than I would have liked because of the rain. We are talking, myself and the Recreation Commission, about plans for the playground up on Gifford Road, the Bicentennial Playground. We have started to ask for designs and quotes from playground companies for that. And so the beginning of that has started, and we're very appreciative that we were able to get some funding through the CPC and town meeting. And then we may be approaching or looking into other grants, approaching other businesses for additional funding. So the wheels are in motion, and we're excited to maybe have a new playground up there as well.
And then I saw on social media that you're signing up for summer programs.
Yes, so this is the most camps we're offering since I started working over 5 years ago is this summer. So we have weekly camps at the Annex Gym happening. We have weekly tennis camps at the Westport Middle High School happening. And we also have camps called nature camps over at Westport Woods. That one is only a 3-week camp, but the other 2 camps I mentioned are every week throughout the summer. So we encourage the public to register, and they can visit westportrec.com to do so. Spots are filling up fast, so we hope that everyone can help take advantage of this. And I'm pleased to say we have a lot of college students who are from Westport who are interested in being counselors, and I've set up at least 6 to 7 of college students, a couple high schoolers too, who are 16 or older. So it's going to be really nice, and I think the community and the families will enjoy it. The kids will have a good time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next item we have 5A, a discussion on Hicks Bridge Landing. Are there people here to talk about that? So we have Michael Burris, the town planner, and Jeff Bull from the Landing Commission. And I don't know this gentleman.
Someone from GCA as well. Todd, yeah.
Oh, hi Todd, good to see you again. Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Sorry, I had to get a little chair.
It's all good.
Welcome. So Jim, you want to tell us what this is about, or one of these guys going to tell us?
I think they can update the board.
Started back in 2021.
realized that there was probably public money coming along to do major construction projects, and the reality that the boat ramp at Hicksbridge Landing is seriously threatened, that the final section of it has been falling into the river for over a decade. And the parking lot itself has been stormwater washing into the river for probably 5 decades, creating a variety of environmental problems. So it seemed like this might be a good time, because the loss of the boat ramp could be described as Westport's Washington Bridge if that fails. So we started with some design concepts, talked to a bunch of people, involved the harbor master, then went after a grant in October of 2021 with the Mass Seaport Council, which we received in order to do engineering. We went out to bid, we hired GZA, glad to see you again. They came up with a first plan, which we did not like, because it did not optimize parking, and they understood that and went back and have at least 2 more iterations of plans that optimize parking for cars, but again, primarily for trailers. So we've had a public meeting. We have been in touch with any group that will come forward with concepts, and we are at a point of close to, I'm not sure what you call it, final draft, perhaps?
I would call it preliminary.
Thank you. I'm not sure of the exact terminology. So it is time, because as this board may or may not understand, this is really the Select Port's Landing, and the Landing Commission has taken this on as sort of a favor to the Select Board, because we're concerned that the public be able to continue to use the boat ramp and the landing, and we're concerned about the quality of the river, and with sea level increase, the continued usability of the parking lot. So this addresses all those aspects, along with the shellfish industry, which is pretty important to Westport, because that parking lot is used year-round, even though the floats aren't in. The new design will make it a much better, more accessible ramp for handicapped people. There is special funding from the Disability Commission for this, and we will be going after grant money related to that, along with grant money related to every other park, and we expect plenty of help from GZA on that. So we're just at a point of wanting you to look at this, and if you have any questions, otherwise we'd like to start ahead with the grant writing part of this. Looking forward to construction. Who knows when we'll get the money. That's where we are. And there's a number of other things that need to happen as well before we get to that construction period too. It has to go to get permitting at the planning board, and has to get Conservation Commission permitting as well. So GZA will also be assisting with that. And so that actually is all covered under the grant funds that we have received for this project. And so that's, if you see on this project schedule, those grant funds will take us to that bid documents phase, and then at which point we would have to find other sources of funding to actually begin construction.
I just add that the plan that you do have, it's a preliminary plan. It's a concept that we've developed with the town and the stakeholders, and some of the design investigation work, I guess, that we did complete to date was the topographic survey and the land survey to develop this base plan, the existing conditions plan, and then we also performed a geotechnical evaluation initially, just to see if that would affect the location of the ramps, the docks, and whatnot, to develop the concept. And then we stopped there and basically just worked on the layout with the town and the stakeholders to get to this concept. So there's still a bit of work to do to advance that, this layout into a drawing set that can be permitted and then go out to bid. And that's all they got on the schedule, the budget we handed out.
So approaching the select board tonight, looking for, not for the select board to make a vote or anything like that, but just kind of like a tacit nod of approval. Yes, this is headed in the right direction, or no, there are some red flags here that need to be addressed. Obviously, we wouldn't want to advance the project too far. If you all had some serious concerns with it, it would not be a very effective use of money to have to go back and redo work.
I would note also that it turns out that for many decades, a pretty important part of the Hicksbury Landing, almost the entire exit ramp, is on property which the town sold to the Nookwachoke Lodge Association many decades ago. And they didn't realize it. We didn't realize it. I'm assuming that you didn't know. So we're in negotiation with them about whether that will be an easement or a purchase, so that we can actually be building on land that we actually have legal access to.
So this ramp on the, I'm not really great at reading these diagrams like some of my colleagues are, but so this kind of sort of where the current exit ramp is, like you're not changing that ramp part, it is roughly where it is today, right?
Right, the exit ramp would be exactly where it is today, but if you kind of look at the dotted line that goes through the blue section there, it's not our land.
Okay.
Oops.
And then what kind of, I just want to ask, what kind of surface is there on where all these parking spaces are?
Pavement.
Is actually pavement. I was wondering how you're getting these striped, because I think you got a lot of, like, what I would call kind of tricky parking, but this is all gonna be lined pavement.
Right, there's concern about whether this is permeable. Realistically, road pack is about 95% not permeable. And if you have dirt, which we've had for decades, it gullies as soon as there's a rain event and washes into the river. And now there are little sandbars, which we hope to be able to excavate so that we can effectuate this design. By paving it, we can push the water back toward rain gardens and treat the water before it enters the river, and also raise the top of the boat ramp so that as the seawater comes up over the next 30 plus years, it won't flood at high tide.
Thank you.
You'll see on the stormwater, the conceptual stormwater pond layout, we're also trying to capture this. I believe there are 2 outfalls on the Hicksbridge Road that discharge onto the parking lot right now. So we added a stormwater management feature at the toe of the slope to pick up that water to prevent erosion and scour the parking lot. And then we're proposing to extend the outfall beyond the beach area to prevent that scour also. The sizes of the stormwater management ponds that are shown have been estimated based on paving the parking lot. So we did do a preliminary calculation on that, so we were order of magnitude correct with the size that you see there on the drawings. To manage.
Go ahead.
So on the financial part, where's the money coming from more specifically? You said grants, I guess.
State, local, federal.
Yeah, there's a Seaport Economic Council grant that is $76,000, and there are 2 earmarks, both of which were for $50,000. So this is all coming from state funding sources.
This is just design. This is not construction.
Right. And if I may, 2 questions. So on the Seaport grant, is that something we will get? I mean, are we inclined to get that? Do we have to?
We hope to. We
So-
have to go back to them.
Well, the $76,000 Seaport Economic Council grant, that was, I just had extended through 2025, I believe, 2026. I'd have to check I don't have the contract in front of me. But that was just recently extended. We're working on getting the earmarks extended as well. So these three funding sources have all been received. We just have some work on the contracting, because the contracts were signed 2021 for some of them, so they're coming up to expire, so, you know, you have
But we have that money.
to push out. But yeah, we have.
We've received.
Yeah.
Okay, then the construction, what's the cost of that? What's the timeline on that, and where does that money come from?
Wherever we can find it.
Okay, well, let's take this in smaller pieces. So what would be the expected start, if things go well, in the design, in the negotiations with the Masonic Temple? When is the construction, when does it start, and how long of a process would that be? Estimate, I mean, I know you may not have all of this right now.
It's hard to know. There's a lot of plans that have come before this town that never get built.
But you'd be ready to go out for bid at the end of
Mhm.
September, is that what I'm reading here? With the current plan, you'd go out for bid on the beginning of September.
That's the goal, and the permitting timeline on that schedule is always in flux. We will have to go to the CMZ at the state level also, so there may be some more time.
And then all the way up to the bid documents is paid for with current grants we already have in hand, right?
Right.
Yeah, 'cause I'm seeing these totals add up to about 57,000. So if we have the 76,000 Seaport Council grant, and you get the amendments that you're seeking, that alone would cover this.
The design, yes, and
Yeah,
permitting.
there's, so from the grant funds that we have received, there's unbudgeted funds. There's $60,000 that we have still to be able to spend,
Okay,
even with these projections and incurred costs.
okay. So in essence, assuming whatever you would need to get for approval for extensions of the grant periods, you have the money in hand.
To go out
For
for bid.
design and
Go out to bid,
permitting.
yes.
Right.
To get bid documents ready to go out to bid, right?
Mhm.
Right,
We don't have any funding source right now to do the construction.
Right.
Right, the
Okay.
construction they don't have
Yeah.
funded.
okay.
But you're hoping to use the more advanced design documentation to go after additional
Yeah,
grants.
we'll
Yeah.
go back to the
Yeah.
Seaport Council, we'll go back,
Mhm.
there's a number of different, particularly because this ticks the number on coastal restoration, on handicapped access, on sea level increase. There are a lot of potential funding sources.
Did you have one?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So the grant funding that we have for the design now, is there any town match for any of that?
Um,
No.
The
No.
earmarks,
So-
no.
The earmarks
The
were
Seaport there
used-
was.
There was a match from the Seaport Council, and we used the earmarks for the match.
And that we can do that, right? Okay, that's good. No, I think this is, it's a good idea. I mean, obviously, we need to, once we have the design, you can't pursue those other grants to build it until you have a design. This solves some serious issues that we have there with stormwater and confusion with parking. I mean, stormwater is the biggest point. I like it. I'm just a little bit concerned on what happened with this exit ramp here when it was transferred before. And are we looking to pave that in this, whatever we're
Yes.
trying to come up with them?
Yeah. Mhm.
Obviously, we've had some talks with them already. Are they
Yes,
in agreement to maybe give us an easement to get out that way? Is it with any kind of,
we are in negotiation.
was that land sold to them, or,
I believe it was for $1.
and did we have any kind of easement in that when that happened?
There is nothing in the town records that I've been able to discover, and in discussion with a number of older Masonic Temple members, because there was a lot of construction that went on at the same time to build that. There was an enormous amount of fill. That used to be a gravel pit. It was much larger before all that construction occurred. There's nothing I've been able to find on paper anywhere, and there's nothing in anyone's particular memory about this.
But how long have we been traveling as a town out that, and did we ever stop traveling off that?
Once, when it was discovered last year, they wanted to make the point legally that it was theirs, and they put up a fence for 2 days.
But how long have we never stopped using it since it's been a landing?
Right, so it's like, I don't know, 40, 50 years, way before my time.
Can we get some kind of legal determination on that, Jim, before we move forward with a design? And maybe not be able, can we affirm that we have a right to get out that way and we can move forward with this design?
I can have them do a title on it.
I think that'd be prudent.
Yeah, we've looked at it pretty hard, and they seem cooperative, because they are concerned about liability. So,
Well, we still have a little bit of money left in design, so if we're gonna have a problem, it would be nip it in the bud right now, I would hope, so.
Okay. Anything else?
It's not construction duration for this project, once it does go to construction, 4 months-ish.
Yeah.
And then it might carry over into another construction season, just to accommodate site restoration, salt marsh restoration.
Okay.
Just to circle back on that question.
But would that put the landing out of commission for a whole season?
there's timing about fish in the river, and GZA is extraordinarily skilled and knowledgeable about that, and we've already spoken with the Shellfish Commission, and yeah, it's gonna be out of, it's gonna be out of commission so that people will need to shift to other locations during that period, but the big concern is if we lose the landing, the boat ramp completely, this will be dramatically more expensive. It'll take dramatically longer to fix that problem. We want to get on this before it fails completely.
Thank you.
I think, I'm not hearing anybody like saying, no, don't go forward. So I think directionally, I think you're fine. I don't think there's any major concerns here. Right.
Something I would say, the last time I met with this board, you launched the idea of assigning a select person to the landing commission, particularly since this is really the select board's landing and not even ours. That never really happened. I'd like you to consider doing that at some point, someone to come to some of our meetings or someone who I can brief so that you have more of a sense of what's going on here and at the other places of public access to the water, because there could be other things slipping through the cracks. I think it's important that the town know, and I think these meetings are more viewed than ours, although I've been surprised. People say, oh, I saw you on TV, Jeff. Like, really?
Does anybody want to volunteer to be a liaison, or we want to think about it and get back?
I'd be willing to volunteer.
Okay, so Mr. Brewer is volunteering to be your liaison.
Great.
So you can work through him. Thank you.
You may have a better candidate, however.
Unless somebody else wants to do it. Yeah. Here, you volunteer.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller always hooks me up.
So next item on the agenda, we just want to review a few select board policies and see if we need to refresh them or get rid of them. We did talk about a couple of these in an executive session, but I want to talk about it in an open session. So the first one on the agenda is the department communication policy. So this is dated April 2nd, 2018. And it kind of outlines a communication policy for the departments. I think there need to be a couple of changes, but I didn't mark it up in advance, so I'm just going to try to remember what I said. So the first section is department communication to the Board of Selectmen. So this is departments talking to us. And what we had said in the policy is that departments should communicate to us through the town administrator. It says we prefer a monthly summary of the workings of the department. We haven't had as much success in a monthly summary, so I think that might be too frequent. I would like to propose that we ask for quarterly summaries from the departments, but I believe very strongly the department should tell us what they're doing. The town accountant, the treasurer collector, the police department, I think they report to us and we get very little. So my thought is that we should amend our policy to make it a quarterly summary. But I don't know, we're not getting the reports. So Jim, do you know if there's like opposition, or is it just we haven't been asking?
I know when I was doing the quarterly reports, this goes back years ago, it seemed like we were just kind of fill in the, I'm sorry, the monthly reports. I think the quarterly reports would be better, or we could invite them in, you know, kind of revolving every quarter or so and get a couple in just to kind of update the board.
Yeah, so maybe, like, maybe we tell them you come in once a quarter, or you give us a written report
Yeah,
once a
no, we can do
quarter,
that.
like, go ahead.
I think a written report once a quarter, but we do a rolling presentation, because we can get jammed up just on that alone.
Yeah.
If everybody had to come in here and make a presentation.
So maybe what we want is like quarterly updates, but maybe once a year, we'll cycle through all the departments.
Yeah, that
So
makes
maybe
sense.
like
That sounds.
every other meeting, we have a department come in or
Right.
something like that. I like that. So I wanna, I guess I can suggest, but that, I would like to suggest that we amend that. And we'll look at this, but we'll vote on it again after we amend it, but. The request from boards or committees, I had to remember why we did this. So at the time that this policy was created, there was quite a bit of controversy, specifically between the select board and the Board of Health, where the departments were requesting information from the other department wasn't answering them. There was a lot of confusion, there was a lot of pointing fingers going on. And so we said that if departments are getting a request from another department, that they should log that. So they should log it and they should say what action's being taken. I don't know that that's necessary anymore, and the reason is because, believe it or not, it's only 6 years ago, but email is much more prevalent now, and so you have a history already of, you have an email that you sent to somebody requesting information. So I'm not sure that you actually need this record keeping, and I'm not sure they were doing this anyway, right? So I don't think we need this other section anymore, but I don't know, do you guys have different opinions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think that's a good idea, but if we specified that it was being done via email now, so that they, I mean, when you put it, yeah.
So maybe maybe reword this a little bit so that the record of the request is the
And it makes it
email.
easier for everybody, you know, it's how everybody communicates now.
Yeah. And maybe a reminder that emails between departments are public records, and so they're required to be retained. So I don't know, I didn't think about it until you just triggered me, but I'm going to make sure we're doing the proper email retention to comply with public records. So maybe we rework this one to be that, I still think it's important that, so the other problem that was going on here at the time was that the select board was making a lot of demands on other boards. But it wasn't the select board doing it, it was individual members of the select board acting as if they were representing the entire board. And I think we need to be really careful about when we're communicating as a citizen asking for information and when we are a board making a request. Yeah, I think this, if we can rewrite this a little bit, just talk about the request of the department should be put in writing, and if they're transmitted by email so that we have a record of the timestamp and et cetera. I think we can change that. Anything else on that section? Then we also have town reports. The town reports, it says here the report must be provided to the select board no later than January 31st. I don't know if we always meet that, but how are we doing with the town report? We got it out on time this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Madam Chair, this is the annual town report.
The annual town report.
Yeah. That's in the bylaw, it's required to be available for the next annual town meeting. So the January 31st is ahead of that. I think it's a good idea to do it earlier than later, because we've gotten into difficulty in the past, as you know. This year it got there in time, about a month before the town meeting. So we just want to keep that in mind, that the law is not requiring January 31st. If we wish to make it more stringent than what the law requires, then we should do that.
Well, but to be
knowing
clear,
it.
the law requires the final report to the citizens by that time, right?
Yes.
So this is a policy that would enable us to get the information from the departments sooner so that we could compile the report. Right, that's why it's earlier, so that there's time to compile.
Yeah, but it might be good just for general knowledge here, to say that the Board of Selectmen, no later than January 31st of each year, in preparation
Okay.
for the final report to be distributed a month before the annual
So we'll
town, or
add
something
it.
like that, whatever the bylaw says.
That makes sense. All right, and then the second part here is the select board communication to departments. So this is communication between the select board and a department needs to go through or include the town administrator. Unless it's about the chair, town administrator should go through the chair. But we want to be really clear. There's sometimes I'm individually asking for information. I'm allowed to do that. But when it's the select board requesting something, that needs to go through the town administrator. It's super important that the departments know what is an official act of the select board and what is an informal act of a select board member. And then departments receiving a request from a board member, should, if it happens out of cycle, then they should notify the town administrator. So this would be for us to use a lot of caution and communicate, like if we're requesting contracts or requesting files, something like that, we go through Jim. And then if they get a request from us, they should tell Jim. That's the essence of what that is. So anybody have concerns about that? The thing I don't think is very clear in here that maybe we'll add a little sentence about is this is for official select board business. Obviously, we're citizens, we interact with the departments all the time, pay our taxes and such. So this would be for official business.
Well, that's a good point. There are numerous interactions. I can think of some that I have, like to sign those warrants. I come and talking to people.
Yeah.
It's quite normal and tame, but yeah, here I guess we need to, was ever going to be described to write it and say what we mean here.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at drafting the amendments there and distribute them. Anything else on the communication policy we should be including? Okay. Then the next one is the agenda and meeting policy. And actually when I asked about the agenda meeting policy, all I meant was what time to request agenda topics, because there's been some confusion about that. So the website says, and this is what I think is a good thing, that you have to request to be on the agenda by 4 p.m. on the Wednesday before a meeting. We have to post the meetings on Thursday, so we need requests to be on the agenda in writing prior to Wednesday, preferably with material relevant, that would be relevant for the board to consider. But when I asked for the meeting policy, you found this from 1983.
Yeah. But it doesn't have a date on it.
It says the following Board of Selectmen meeting policy was amended in 1983 to include the following. So now that I've looked at this, I think this probably needs a rework. For one, it says that we meet weekly, so I'm super glad we don't meet weekly anymore, actually. Some of them are still pretty valid, that the board is in control of the agenda, that we authorize Jim and the secretary and the administrative assistant to put routine matters on. Those are fine. We entertain issues. I think some of this just might need a 21st century revamp here.
Well, it should also reflect our present practice if we find our practice to be agreeable, because right now, neither the secretary nor the assistant, they don't really put it on the agenda. They list it, and then we have a discussion, and it's ultimately approved by the chair to be posted. So
I'm guessing back in 1983, we didn't have a town administrator, and we had a 3-person select board. So we probably need to look at the current titles and responsibilities and make those adjustments as well.
Yeah, I think this one, I didn't look in super detail, because again, I thought it was just agenda items in writing by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, but now that I'm looking at this, because it doesn't also reflect the idea that sometimes we have remote meetings and we're authorized to do that, or the fact that we have videos of the meetings. So I think this is one that kind of just needs a regroup.
So I can take a look around and see if we can get a sample that kind
See
of,
if you have like,
a little modern, a little more modern than this one.
maybe some have more modern policies here.
Well, then, Madam Chair, if I may, then there's the posting. This doesn't say anything about posting, so. We post, the official posting place is down on the entrance, right? As opposed to the website. It's
We talked about that when the previous town clerk, that was saying that putting the meeting agendas on the calendar was a courtesy rather than the official posting. And I think that there's a policy that we, the board, can act saying that the official posting place is the town website and the town hall bulletin board is the courtesy, right? So could you please look into what we'd have to do for that?
Yeah, I believe it's just a vote of the select board, but I can check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something in the back of my mind says also it has to be, believe it or not, approved by the Attorney General.
The posting has to be approved by
Yeah,
the attorney?
the selection of the place where you post has to be
Oh.
approved. If you're gonna change it, maybe it's just a letter, I don't know. But that came up once before Jim's time.
But I can think of no reason in modern times that the website is where people go to see. They don't go walk up to town hall anymore.
So then we'd be able to email, that would be considered in writing by that date, and it would go to the town administrator and then CC the chair? Would that be the
That's
procedure?
what I would say is that, and really it doesn't have to go to Jim so much as it has to go to Paula. But you should include Jim.
Okay.
I usually would request Jim and Paula and the chair is
Okay,
what I
good.
would do. And I think this, actually, it says the person or entity making such a request is, puts in writing with specificity and in detail the topic. So there needs to be enough information about the topic to have an adequate discussion about it. But yeah, it would be technically through Jim and the chair, but Paula's the one who will actually do it. Sorry, Jim. I'm assuming Paula's the one that actually does it.
Fine by me.
So really, the most important thing is it goes to the chair. I mean, the chair could direct it to whoever needs to get it done.
Yes.
But, okay,
But Paula would be the way to make
clears
sure.
up a lot of stuff for us.
I still think it really should go through Jim, because he's a town administrator.
Okay.
The staff here works for Jim.
Yeah,
They support the board.
yeah.
And again, we rely upon Jim to sort of coordinate the administration of town government. So, and, there are exceptions that may involve the chair of the board itself, that Jim wouldn't be the appropriate person to
Yeah, no,
discuss. But
I think you're right. Jim and Paula and the chair is who I think they should go to.
But I'm thinking it's important that we have at least two, and one of them needs to be the chair.
Right.
Okay, anything else we should think? So I think we need to think about the remote topping. I think we need to look at the posting of the meetings. We're only in charge of our own agendas. We're not in charge of anybody else's agendas. Except maybe the committees that report to us.
Yeah, that I'd have to check. I think if we change our actual posting place, it would impact all committees.
Yeah, that I'm not concerned about. That I think it's just the right thing to do for the public, but. Okay, all right, anything else on the policies? There's probably other policies we should unearth from the 1980s, but
There's a book, there's sticker
I know,
policies
I
that
have
is
it
just.
in my, I have it in my home office. All right, anything else on policies? Okay, town meeting review. Jim, do you want to kick this off?
Mr. Brewer asked that we put this on the agenda, so.
All right, so maybe we'll let Mr. Brewer kick us off
Yeah,
here.
well, I thought this was just a sort of a healthy thing to do. We've had a town meeting with a lot of items on it. And the question that I always come away with is what action items are next for us to take upon? And some of it may be just some monitoring, although obviously Route 6, we discussed Route 6 tonight in a different context, and including ARPA money and so on and so forth. So we've already done that by dint of that item there. Another one that's important to a lot of people is the short-term rental. In effect, since technically short-term rentals are illegal the renters could be subjected to a cease and desist order. And before that were to happen, there should be some rules in place. I mean, I can see that having a lot of implication and potentially inflammatory implications for a lot of people. We heard the comments from short-term rental property owners, and we're basically, if we enforce this, we put them out of business. Before, the town was allowing it in spite of the bylaw. An interesting thing about the bylaw is I would be interested in knowing how that bylaw ever was passed in the first place. And I don't mean that in any disparaging way. I mean, it looks to me like an oversight, because it reads, off the top of my head, is that if this is not mentioned here, then therefore it's prohibited. So therefore, it wasn't mentioned, short-term rentals that is, and therefore they are prohibited. Of course, we never enforce the law. And it's a little more exciting than that, because we're collecting money. The state's collecting money, and the town is collecting money. So it's this is a quagmire, if you will. So, and people, I get a lot of questions about this, and still do. It seems we ought to move on this, or I guess it's the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I know Mr. Burris has made comments about it, but the rental season is upon us. Short-term rentals occur all year round, as we know. So this is an item that needs action because of the failure to enact it. What would have happened had it passed is it wouldn't be illegal anymore. It'd just be restrictions. It would be managed, and there were, was it 2 days? You couldn't have 2-day rentals. You couldn't have less than 2-day rentals, if I recall. Hence the discussion.
The wording was 5 or 6.
5 days.
and they
It was
wanted to-
Yeah, it eliminated like weekend rentals, and there's a lot of that. So this one it's like a hot potato. Somebody's got to get their arms around it, and I think the Board of Selectmen should just make sure those who have to get their arms around it can get going on this and give us some direction here.
Yeah, because I think you're right. I don't think people really understood, although I do think Jim Whiten attempted to explain this, that if we didn't vote to pass that law at a town meeting, they were all illegal. I know I don't want to spend a lot of legal bills making something illegal that was legal, yesterday, and, tomorrow it would be expected to continue. So I'm concerned about if we start issuing cease and desist about the legal quagmire we're gonna be in.
Well, should we invite the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board into a meeting to talk about this? And if it means creating some sort of I know there was a process that came up with these proposals, and it was, there was consensus about, as a result of that process. But based upon the discussion at town meeting, there were a lot of stakeholders who weren't aware of it or had a lot of issues with it. So I think we have to revisit that process or redo it on some level so that we can address the issues raised at town meeting.
Well, I wonder if there's some way we can put a hiatus on enforcement or something, like is there a mechanism, I'm looking at Jim, this many years as the planner, is there a mechanism for us to say, don't get, like, while we were going after still let people continue renting in July?
Madam Chair, could I just, so when was the date of that bylaw?
Oh, I don't know.
Was it a long time ago?
Yeah.
Was it 10
Well,
years
it would
ago?
have been probably one of the original bylaw. I mean, that's technically how zoning is based, right? You permit uses, and those that aren't permitted are not allowed,
So was that 70s, 80s?
at least. At
Could
least.
look where it was, because I'm too getting calls off the hook on this, and most of them are like some people that have been doing it for generations.
Yeah.
So I think one of the questions would be, especially to the ZBA, would be pre-existing non-conforming uses, so these people that you want to give them a cease and desist, but they probably have a claim against a pre-existing non-conforming use. And before we start enforcing stuff on them, I think in acquiring legal fees and more work for our zoning enforcement agent, we need to look into that at the very minimum. And I think Jim Whiten was trying to address that.
He was trying.
He was, yeah.
Doing. And again, we didn't educate like we should. And
Yeah. So,
I think what's happened to date is rentals that have been problematic have been brought to the attention to the building inspector by the neighbors, and those are the ones that have received enforcement. I don't think there's been any attempt to go out and, at least at this point.
But those people, those other people, after they read this, they're concerned, because those were the calls that I got.
Yeah,
They
no, they
put them
should
out
be
of
concerned.
business. Their family's been doing this for 100 years. and-
And it's interesting, right, because families, I mean, summer communities along the river, along the ocean have been renting out weekly rentals for as long as I can remember. I don't think nightly rentals was a thing until recently, but weekly rentals, monthly rentals have always been going on here in town.
so who would be the enforcement? Like, what, if we were gonna say, nope, they're not legal anymore, is it the zoning enforcement officer that would cite them?
Ralph, as zoning enforcement officer, would have to issue the cease and desist.
So, what's the mechanism to put a hiatus on that or something? Like, do we,
There's only really one way to do it, and that would to create a moratorium, which is a zoning approval, just like any other zoning thing. You actually create a moratorium for a year or two while you study it and develop zoning bylaws. So there's really no easy way to do it. You know, we have one zoning case that's gone before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the zoning board made a determination that that use was not permitted under the zoning. We could get another one that goes before the zoning board under slightly different circumstances that may be permitted. There's a recent case in Massachusetts that kind of indicates that these are commercial uses and not residential uses. So I think right now, and that's what the zoning board based their decision on, was that if you're doing it short-term rentals and it's a commercial use, then it is not permitted. And then there's questions, well, what's short-term? Is it a week short-term? Is it a month short-term?
yeah,
It's,
A legal nightmare.
it is.
it is. So,
And it'd be an enforcement nightmare as well.
Yeah.
You know, we just don't have the staff to go out and enforce, 160, 170 cease and desist that we know of. Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of like what you're saying, like, I think we need to get the right people together to talk about it. I think we probably do need to have some sort of moratorium or something in place.
Yeah,
Just till we
that's
get
right.
something more solid.
Did you say that we're already collecting money on this too?
Is
Absolutely.
it room tax? We get room
So,
tax.
I guess we're double dipping, I don't know. but-
So the state collects the room tax.
The state collects room
It
tax?
eventually comes to us, but we're not knocking on doors, so.
Yeah.
No, but the
Yeah,
major
benefits.
rental companies report to the state of Massachusetts, right? And then that's how we know, and then they say we get whatever our percent is, 4% or something.
Well, yeah, if I may, it's 9.7%. The state gets 5.7%, and the town gets 4%. And that's required by law. And this is interesting. If you're a short-term renter and you're following the law, you have to post in your property, I don't know if this is constitutional, a plaque that has on there that we are conforming to the law of the state of Massachusetts regarding rentals. And apparently, I don't know if they've ever enforced this, but the tenant has to write the separate check. They can't include it in the rent. But anyway, in the interest of full disclosure, I have a rental property. I haven't done a short-term rental in a while, but I had to comply and send the money in. And then we get the 4% back to us. I checked with Sue one day to find out if we get that. Because at least I want a portion of it to come back to Westport, which it should be. So it's a pretty clear thing, and there's a lot here that, but it's funny because you got all these rules, but yet the state is collecting money too, so apparently they didn't have any problem with any zoning bylaw problem, and I guess we didn't either.
All right, so let's get whoever it is that we need to get together and maybe look at what we need to do to pause or just not enforce, like what's our best go forward here while they sort out a better short-term rental. And then I think we do need to do a better job informing the public about, like, you be careful what you're voting for because it's not what you think.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. See if you can get the right people, figure out who the right, maybe Michael or somebody has or the ZBA, maybe they have an idea of the best people.
I will say the zoning board, planning board, They spent a considerable amount of time on this last
Yeah.
year, working with both people in favor and opposed, working with town council. They had a number of public hearings on it, they had a number of workshops. There was plenty of opportunity for people to give their input.
Yeah. Constance?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, it was disappointing also that it was so far down on the agenda. I do believe that it probably would have passed if it had been earlier on in the evening, but people just left. Because I think that people are concerned about short-term rentals when they are done in a way that's just sort of like a party house. Nobody wants to live next to that. But there was it was a small but very vocal group of people that are short-term renters or Airbnbs, and so I'm hoping that we can. I think this is important for other zoning bylaws as well, to move them up a little bit in the evening, because they're some of the most important things that we pass and talk about as a town. They have amazing, repercussions for decades. So hopefully the next time we go at this, maybe we could move it up a little bit so that there'd be more people there to express their opinions on it. But yes, the zoning board and the planning board spent a lot of time on this, and many meetings where they listened to input from a lot of different people. So it was just that this group of people did not like what they heard, and they wanted to do what they've been doing and weren't at all willing. It seems to me, I was there for the conversation, to make any adjustments in kind of how they've been going about it.
I just want to ask you, so you're a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals,
Mhm.
right? Have you guys, since town meeting, talked about how to what to do about this in a public meeting? I'm just wondering if you've addressed it yet.
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so that was short-term rentals from the town meeting follow-up. Were there other items on the town meeting follow-up?
Nothing specific. I mean, there are a number of things there that Jim always is monitoring, because there's some action we have to take, moving money around to different accounts, whatever was approved. No, but those are the two that I had in mind, but I think as a general practice, to just have a debrief is good, even if there's not much to talk about in future years.
One that kind of surprised me was the opioid conversation, and I think that one was because we didn't do a good job explaining what the article was. Because I think a lot of people were concerned that we didn't know how the money was going to be spent. But we didn't know how the money was going to be spent because that is not what the article was about. The article was about shifting it to a special account so we could be very cautious about and track what it was spent on. So we weren't actually voting to spend any opioid money. We were voting to account for it in its own accounting bucket so that we could track it more closely. And I don't think people understood that.
I think we had a hard time because we had a discussion before the meeting.
Yeah, we were trying
What's this all about? I think, I agree with you. I think the big issue there was the presentation.
Yeah.
And we sort of, we had a meeting where we went through the entire agenda, but that one didn't stick out as much as it did the meeting just before, our meeting just before town meeting.
Yeah, and that was because it didn't stick out to me because it was just routine accounting transaction that don't usually get a lot of attention. Because that's what, and we put the routine accounting stuff up front on the agenda because it's like we can't run the town unless you pass it. But I mean, to the point of the previous speaker here, those are also the ones that aren't really that controversial and we're going to pass. But yeah, that one I think we didn't do a good job of explaining.
I think it was the attorney that didn't do it.
The attorney didn't. Yeah. Any other ones that kind of stood out? I'm sure the infrastructure oversight is going to go talk, replan and rework that.
I'd like to just one more thing on that, like while we're here and moving forward with the discussion with the water, that the public knows and understands, because that was the questions that was coming up on it, that this water main that's been extended from where it ends, pretty much where elderly housing is, to Washington Street is going to be extended, and same thing with the Macumba Loop, which I believe, I haven't seen the plan, but it's going to come up, give it down Osborne and back out into Route 6, that all of those houses that it goes by will get a water service, a gate in front of their house at no cost. There's no betterment for this at all. And the taxes won't be raised to have it done. I mean, they will be responsible to connect to their house from the property line in, but it's a lot better than trying to drill a new well in a contaminated area.
And they're not being required to tie in.
Right.
That'll be their option.
Well, one of the things is, because one of the places, we got the VFW. I believe it makes it to the VFW. The VFW has a public water supply. They got a grant for a treatment system for the VFW. They spend, which I'll find it out this week, how much it costs them to test that public water supply. I didn't ask them specifically, but I've asked a couple of other businesses, and it's in a range between $6,000 and $7,000 a year to test that water. So if we, once, just the VFW, you get the water service in front of them and you tie it in, just what they spend in testing for 1 year is enough to connect them into the water service. So I think the public needs to know that, and that'll be done. They will not raise any taxes and they will be not charged a betterment.
20 years from now, when they have failed septic systems, they have to spend a lot of money to build their septic system, and they say, why don't we have sewer here? They refer back.
Well, one of the things with that is, they to borrow the money for the sewer was declined. I don't think it really declined the whole project, but once we run the water by there will be other departments that will knock on their door they're doing it now for the septic, so.
We'll see. Okay, anything else on town meeting? Okay, town administrator report.
To the offshore wind and Westport oversight, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management held an informational session last month at the Westport Middle High School to update the residents on the status of offshore wind projects in this area. Vineyard Northeast Offshore Wind is proposing a point of interconnection with the grid in eastern Connecticut. There was some discussion about tying it in up Route 88. At this time, that is not included in their current bid, but they haven't ruled it out for future projects. They left the door open. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. I guess I'm bringing it before the board tonight just to put it out there that at some point, we should really have somebody that's more involved, kind of overseeing the status of these wind projects. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of informational sessions. There's a number of different projects, and currently, I'm not tracking them. So at some point, it may be worthwhile establishing some type of advisory committee that would, look out on the town's behalf, either for or against these types of projects, but somebody that can at least keep track of it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think we should put on a future agenda, maybe either next time or the time after, we should put on an agenda to create an advisory committee specifically for that. I know we got a letter from Ms. Gee about volunteering to serve on the committee, but I think we should put it on a posting to create the committee and then seek people so we get some interest.
Probably delineate some of the constituents that should be part of it, so.
Yeah, maybe get some thought about the
fishing
type.
interests,
Yeah.
as well as environmental organizations. So you're gonna cover the range of opinions.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'd just like to say thank you for making that suggestion. I do think it's something that we need to have in a more public domain so that citizens and everybody can feel that they are a part of it and getting updates as to where we are with that. So I'd just like to say thank you for that, and hopefully we can, the board can put the committee like that together.
I do want to underscore there is no current bid proposal that includes going up 88. But that doesn't mean there won't be one in the future. There's no current.
Can I ask a question here? When you say bid proposal, who are they? You're talking, because this has already been bidded and leased. I mean, I've read the entire construction and operations plan, which is like 700 and some pages, and we are front and center throughout the whole thing, Westport. So there's two, it's always been put forth that there would be two cable connections, not one. It was never like, we'll do one or the other. It was because it's such a huge project, it's about 160 wind turbines, and it's way far out. So it's the one that's the farthest out. And they have one cable coming from the, what would that be? The northwest piece of the lease area, and then which they have coming right into Horseneck Beach. And then from the southeastern piece of the lease area, they have a cable line, a corridor going into New London or around that area. So it was always throughout every piece of the COP proposed as that it would be that they would have both of these cable corridors. And so I was at the, of course I went to the library and talked to people, and I also was on one of the BOEM Zoom meetings where where you were making a statement about your comments about it. And they gave about an hour-long presentation, and on both of them that I went to, the BOEM, the BOEM person that was heading it up had a diagram over here, and and it had the cable corridor for Connecticut and the cable corridor for Massachusetts, i.e. Westport. And she said, everything over here on the left, everything that you see is part of this construction operations plan, is part of this plan. So I just, I mean, I'm not saying that, I don't, but it's just weird. It's like we're hearing one thing from a couple of the reps, and yet if you read the COP and you talk to the people at BOEM, they say something totally different.
Yeah, all I can say is from what I've been told is that the connection going to Connecticut is, maybe it's more advanced than the connection going, if there is a connection going through Westport. I can tell you we've only been approached once. Mr. Brewer and myself met with a representative of the wind farm. This goes back 3 or 4 months ago, and it was just a general discussion. The town has not been approached that I'm aware of in any official capacity of lines going up and down Route 88 or crossing town property. Again, I think it's, from what I understand, they left the option open, but I don't know how far advanced that is at this point.
Yeah.
And based on the reading that you've done, I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am about it, so it could be. The town has not been approached on any of it.
Okay.
All right, so we'll talk about creating this committee.
Again, I mean, I'm definitely in favor of creating this committee, and one of my concerns are they're building this out there right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's under construction, right? Offshore wind, they haven't started.
No, they haven't. It's not been approved. It's through. They're going through the scoping and process, and then they'll be looking at a draft environmental impact study. It'll take another few months, probably 5-6 months, to actually go through the entire environmental impact statement, and then at the end of all that, so there's 2 more opportunities for public comment, and then after that, BOEM will make a decision, and basically after they've made that decision, then the company is free to start, but they have not started any construction yet. But the very first thing that they usually do is put in the cable landings. So whatever cable landings they're going to put in, they would do that first before they started, more than likely before they started with putting in foundations.
So, I mean, I think that would be more of a reason for us to get a committee sooner than later. And, hopefully, like, people like the watershed would have a representative on it, because, people that are out, conservation, something like that.
Yeah, we think we definitely should think about who we think should be on that committee, because I think...
Because I don't think, we can stop it, but we gotta make sure that the environmental impact, if it does hit Westport's covered.
Well, it could happen real fast. I mean, so I think that putting together a committee and keeping everybody abreast would make it so that people would feel that it didn't just happen behind closed doors and then all of a sudden it's happening, which I think would probably not be good for the town. But, you know, because so much of it is on state property, it is difficult in terms of where Westport can weigh in.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else on that? Okay, Bristol County ARPA.
Bristol County ARPA, I mentioned this before, last meeting, the select board signed a letter requesting an extension of time to obligate the funds, and that was granted till September 30th, which gives us a little bit more leeway and flexibility this summer with the contracts. The old high school, the school committee meeting held on Monday of last week, the 14th, or Tuesday. The committee discussed as a cost-saving measure, closing or moving out of the old high school, which would mean that the high school would turn back over to the town. This was not budgeted for, it was not expected. It does impose a number of issues with the town, not only budget-wise, but manpower-wise, resource-wise. I don't have anybody that even knows where the boilers are over there, so if we all of a sudden have to be responsible for the building, I'm hoping, and I think we'll be able to work with the school so that at least they maintain or share the responsibility to keep the building open and operating. I think it accelerates the timeline as to what a decision has to be made with this building. We just got an email back from them this morning. We had asked about some of the issues that they're having over there. They're having issues with the boilers right now. They're talking about they actually shut the heat off a couple of months ago. So that's going to have to be addressed. We have termites in there now, so that's a $25,000 extermination that's happening as soon as the after-school program gets done. It's like any building. If it's not being used on a regular basis throughout the, things tend to deteriorate a little bit quicker. So that's something.
So we were not invited in advance. We had no advance knowledge that they were going to be discussing this at the school committee meeting. Once we were alerted to the fact that they decided this, Jim sent a whole series of questions to them. Primarily, a lot of it was budget related. We planned the budget assuming they were going to be in there and taking care of some of the expenses. I don't think they volunteered to give us the money that we allocated for the build upkeep either. So we'll have to work that out. Karen Rouse from the Finance Committee also tacked on a bunch of questions about related to this. So I actually think we need to do two things. So one, I think we need to refer this to the Long-Term Building Planning Committee. I don't know if there's a meeting scheduled yet.
I did speak to the chair, Chris Thacher. He said he's looking to schedule one in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so I think we need input from the Long-Term Building Committee based on this new information. And then I think probably after that committee meets, then we should talk about the implications on the budget and what we're going to do about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
One question. So Jim, did they say they were just going to absorb those offices into existing buildings?
Yes. Yeah, and then they're doing it for a couple of reasons. At least that's what they explained at the meeting. They're short administrative staff in a couple of the buildings, and this will help with the overlap and help them cover some of that with their existing administrators. They also want to continue to use the fields.
I mean, I've been on the record saying we should sell that building a long time ago and that they should move their administrative offices to the current facilities, and they said they couldn't, so apparently they have found a way. But we'll look for input on what to do, whether this has any impact on the timing for what to do about the school.
Town website. We've gone out for proposals on the town website to update that. This is through a grant through Senator Rodericks that we're going to do this work. We had 14 proposals. We've narrowed it down to 3. We're going to be interviewing those companies this week and hopefully get that started in the next month or so. Cemetery expansion. Highway Department dug a number of test pits over there last week. The preliminary results were favorable, at least better than we expected, especially with all the rain that we've had over the last few months. So we'll be setting up a meeting with Power Engineering over the next week or two to see how we can, what those areas will accommodate based on the water tables and the soils. This would be the areas just north of the existing site, where it's wooded, to the east of the existing garage. A couple of other things, just so you're aware, there's been work being done down at Horseneck Beach. State DCR is widening the beach road that runs from Baker's Beach to East Beach. So they've been down there with some large trucks and excavators. They're widening the road from, I think it's like 10 or 12 feet. They want to widen it to 20 feet. So they're doing that. They're also looking to replace the fence along Bridge Street from the boat ramp up to Baker's Beach. Conservation has been out there. I think Conservation has requested that they attend their next meeting to give an update, to make sure that they have all their permits that are needed. Online permitting, Mike Barris has gone out for proposals. They've interviewed a couple of companies. I think we have it now down to one. Hopefully get that before the board in the next meeting, or meeting after, for contract approval. This would be mainly, we'd start in the building department, planning, and then kind of expand it through some of the other departments. The annex, the well was dry this morning. They had no water over at the town hall annex. We're not sure if there was a leak that ran all weekend that dried up the well. They shut the water off this morning. I shut the valves closed this morning, and it didn't seem to recoup any of the water throughout the day. So Samco is going to go back there first thing in the morning to see if we can get water in the well. They did move a porta-john, should be there in the morning, but that's not ideal. The employees can, we're working with the employees to kind of address it. We're hoping that the well will regenerate itself overnight and provide water in the morning. It's happened a number of times in the past where the toilets, it's sandy type water, and it clogs up the fixtures in the men's room, and the toilet fixtures, so sometimes it'll run all weekend, run the well dry, but normally it recoups fairly quickly. This time it didn't. The only other thing that came in on Friday was 40B application for Pine Ridge.
One question on that, Jim. So you're saying that the well probably ran all weekend, like a toilet or something like that?
It's happened before. I'm hoping that's what happened now. But when they looked down the well, Samco looked down late this afternoon, they could see the well pump and they couldn't see any water. So that's
How about the D-box on the septic system? Because we had that back up into the daycare over there last year a couple of times.
That'd be a separate issue. There's been no issues with that at this point. And if it was running all weekend, we didn't notice any backup. So what happened in the past, and you're right, there was some backup in the bathrooms when the water was running all weekend, but that wasn't the case here.
Did they do a Title V report when they did that, when that happened?
That I wouldn't know. And like I said, a 40B, 38 units, they'd be, I think, single-family units up off of, I think it's called Lake Drive. They proposed a golf course there years ago off of Route 177, just west of Route 88. So this is a preliminary siting application. They submit to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen has 30 days to comment. They're gonna have a site visit a week Wednesday at 10 o'clock if anybody's interested. And then if the board does have any comments, we need to get that up to the state. Once they get that, then they will file with the Zoning Board of Appeals for the permit approval.
Who's bringing that forward, Jim? Who's bringing that forward?
It's the owners of the property. Paul Cussin is involved, and Attorney Brian Corey is involved as well.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so we have the minutes from May 6th and May 7th. How do they look, Craig?
They look fine to me. I reviewed them when I got back this morning, and they reflect my understanding of the meetings. So I move approval.
Would that be both?
Of both things.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, 4 with 1 absence. Report on the bill warrant.
Madam Chair, I don't know if this was included in the package, but regardless, there was a routine review, $2.1 million, nothing jumped out at me. I made a note that it was a usual array of bills, payroll, and so on and so forth. So that was concluded in order.
All right, thank you. We have liaison committee reports and suggestions for future agendas. So, Annie?
So getting back to sewer and water, I mean, I'd like to put a suggestion for a future agenda is the neighborhood up where we have the letter from the DEP from Our Lady of Grace Church. If we could get that on agenda and discuss what we can do to help those people up in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I mean, maybe present the DEP report.
Should it be for the infrastructure meeting or for the select board?
Well, since the select board's a water commissioners, I think we should maybe get involved in this.
Sure, and the infrastructure oversight committee is our advisory board, that's why I was asking. So, but you're thinking just straight to here, not through infrastructure first? Yeah.
I did try that through infrastructure last time, so that's why I'm presenting it right now.
Okay, all right, so we can put that on, is 2 weeks enough time to prepare whatever we need to prepare?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Dick?
Just one mention regarding the Council on Aging and my role there as liaison. They recently completed a strategic plan. It hasn't been made, we haven't discussed it yet. It's going to be at the next meeting in June to go over that. But the Board of Selectmen and the Select Board should know that there will be 2 renewals of terms that are expiring. One was filling the vacancy of, I'm trying to remember who it was because there were a couple of vacancies. But in any event, 2 of them will be coming up, and at the next meeting, the council will need to come up with a new chairperson. The existing chairperson wishes to step down from that, but wishes at the same time to remain on the Council on Aging, which is fine. So they will get busy on that. But that'll be coming, the chairpersonship won't be coming before us. We'll be dealing with a couple of appointments. They should be routine in the near future. And that's it.
Affordable Housing Trust, the only thing that I'm sitting on right now, I know I can volunteer for some other committees, but I haven't been invited to anything yet, so. We're not meeting till this week, so I'll have something to report on next meeting.
Okay. For me, the Climate Resiliency Committee met last week. We got a really good detailed report from the Agriculture Subcommittee and the Health Subcommittee. So I forget how many subcommittees we have now. It might be 6 or 7. Subcommittees are each compiling their individual reports, and then they'll be put into one big report for the select board with an executive summary. So probably throughout the summer, we'll be getting the reports from each subcommittee and then compiling it. So hopefully by fall, we're talking about having a report out. I do think the agriculture also had a presentation at the Grange on theirs that was pretty well attended, actually. And I believe that's available on video. That I heard some really good things about that one. And then the health one, the health was pretty interesting because it really talked about disease vectors as one. They first thought something about heat management for like the elderly and the compromised was going to be important, but really the disease vectors with the breeding of mosquitoes was really a high on the health threat thing. So there'll be a full report coming out from Climate Resilience, but probably not until fall. There was a school building committee meeting scheduled, which I did not attend. Did you attend?
I did. That was last Wednesday. Still working through some of the issues. We have the gutters around the edge that we're trying to get the contractor back and the architect on board just to make adjustments to those. Identified the final numbers on the punch list as well as some warranty issues. We're getting there. There's going to be a meeting, I think, next week we're hoping the contractor, as well as the architect, agree to either do the work or agree not to do the work so that we can move forward, so.
Madam Chair. So the building committee meeting, did you have any discussion on the septic system up there?
No,
Are you aware of that we don't have a certificate of compliance on the septic up there?
yeah, you've mentioned that.
How about a as-built?
We do have an as-built.
Okay. How about the abandonment of the tanks on the permit?
As you stated, those haven't been abandoned yet, so.
Well, there was a permit, so they never took out a permit for the septic.
That I don't know. I know
No,
that.
I have a copy of the permit. They haven't taken out a permit for the septic, and it states right in that those tanks needed to be abandoned under that permit. So that's just my concern, is it was supposed to be done under that contract. It wasn't done, and that permit is also expired. So I don't know how we're gonna address that now, as a town.
All right, so we'll take that back to the school building committee. So that was it for me. Do you have any comments and statements from the public? We don't have anyone left from the public. So I think there's none. Was there any topics, well, it's actually on the boards and committees vacancy list. The boards and committees are all coming up in about a month. So June 30th, a lot of appointments will end. So we do want to hear from the committees whether people want to be reinstated. There's always opportunities to join committees. So if you're interested in one that doesn't show currently vacant, reach out and we can probably find a way to get you on. And anything in the under 48 hours? So mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that we're going to go to an executive session. We'll come out of executive session only to adjourn this meeting. I will entertain a motion pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, where the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect. To A, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Westport Permanent Firefighters Association Local 1802. B, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Highway Department, ASME Council 93, Local 1701. Discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Westport Police Association. Discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union personnel, Susan Brayton, the treasurer collector, and Carol Freitas, the veteran service officer. And to approve the minutes of May 6, 2024.
Madam Chair, I, Richard Brewer, make a motion that we go into executive session for the reasons stated.
I, Craig Dutra, second that motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Many saws aye.
Aye, Shawna Tees.
I, Richard Brewer.
I, Craig Dutra.
All right, we are in executive session.